Hello and welcome to the Wolves Report online Leicester, and thank you for joining us for episode 87, where tonight we'll analyse the match and the players from Wolves' 2-0 win at the Hawthorns on Sunday morning. We'll also talk about the unwanted scenes we witnessed and look ahead to Man United and Chelsea. The plan is to do a slightly shorter show to give people the opportunity to watch the game back, to watch the show back, because we've got a game on Thursday, but who knows, it may go on for an hour anyway. So I've cut the questions out of this week's show just to give ourselves an opportunity to try and reduce it. We've returned Ewan Roberts from his loan spell, and we've drafted club captain back in Mark Knock into this week's show. Knocky, thank you for joining us as always. Let's start as we mean to go on. Talk me through West Bromwich Albion 0, Wolverhampton Wanderers 2.
It was all right, wasn't it? No, it was a fantastic day. In terms of the actual performance itself, I don't think we were great. I think we've played a lot better than that this season and actually lost. But I think there was moments in there where you realise just how far ahead of them we are at the moment, because there was a couple of moments of real quality. The 2 goals in particular were outstanding. But I don't think we played particularly well. I thought defensively we were a little bit suspect, especially in the first 10, 15 minutes. They seemed to have an overlap down the flanks every time. We seemed just a little bit suspect in those areas. I thought Totti struggled for the first sort of 10, 15, but then after that, he was absolutely superb. And I think it kind of started as we thought it would. They were always going to be 100 miles an hour. I think they were very much playing on adrenaline, and they were trying to influence the game early, try and get that early goal so they had something to hang on to. Whereas I think we were more, was it part of the game plan? Potentially just sit a little bit deeper, try and take the sting out of the game, and then the extra quality that we've got, should show in the later stages of the game. And I think that's kind of what happened really. But it was fantastic. And I think that the biggest thing for me is that you can see that this manager and these players, they just get it. They get us as a club. I mean, you look at the celebrations for both goals, and it was a real sort of, it was for the fans. You could see it was for the fans, those celebrations. It was just giving them a little bit back after all of the years of pain they've caused us. And it was fantastic. Gary O'Neill's celebrations at the end, the noise in the crowd, everything was just a brilliant day. And it's been a long time coming. I mean, it's what, 27, 28 years since we last won there. I was there with my dad that day, and I was fortunate enough to go with him again for the 2-0 on Sunday. And it was just it just felt like we put a few demons away. We put a few ghosts to rest in that one. It was just nice to turn up and not play particularly well. It would have been great to beat them, 4 or 5-0. But when you're in a game like that, I think it was never really set up to go that way. They were always going to come at us. It was always going to be a relatively tight affair, but we were the better team. And the 2 goals, as I say, were absolutely magnificent. And it gave us a real platform, I think, because you could see that extra layer of quality was there. We just had a little bit more than they did. And really, when you dissect the game, they didn't have a great deal of opportunities. There was a couple of headers from 7 or 8 yards. There was one shot, swift, straight into Jose Sarr. But when you actually dissect the performance, really, it was a little bit men against boys in terms of the quality.
Great analysis there, Knocky. Just going back to your opening statement, really, in terms of how slow the game started. I spoke to Daz a few times about this. I spoke to him earlier on, and I'm sure, as he's as well, the Wolves did it on purpose, because it's easy in those games to be flying in for tackles, win your first tackle, win your first header, and all that kind of stuff. But I believe that Wolves really slowed it down on purpose. We're going to play at our pace. Yes, it probably sacrificed the start in terms of positivity and let Albion have the strongest start. We'll have to admit that's true, because it did. But then Wolves controlled the game. And after Neto's goal, I didn't really think Wolves were in trouble. They had a couple of early headers, but I think tactically he's managed his players well, because obviously they're seeing people in and out of the area. You've got to be up for Albion. You've got to beat Albion. Everyone would have been pumped. The people at the club who are fans, they would have been telling the players. So it's easy to get drawn into something really emotional. When they treated Albion really respectfully. They stood off earlier on. Then they had measured pressing throughout the game, and I thought it was tactically excellent. Now, of course, we'd love to go there, beat them 4, 5 or 6. We'd love to do that. But the main thing on Sunday, Knocky, was win the game, don't get any injuries, don't get any suspensions. It's a telling factor, Knocky, that Wolves didn't have a single booking on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I think we played the game, they played the occasion, didn't they? We were just sensible in how we approached it. And as I said, it'd have been great to have gone there and seen 3 or 4 goals, but it was about getting through to the next round. It was about winning the game. And it was professional, wasn't it? It was just a professional performance. Everyone knew what they were doing, everyone knew their job. And I think it was a case of just taking the sting out of West Brom. They were just fully on adrenaline, weren't they? They were very much trying to get into us from the start. But when you look at the quality that they've got compared to the quality we've got, I don't think anyone in that squad would make our bench. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I just think we're a long, long way ahead of them at the moment. So it was professional. We did the job we needed to do, and it was organised. I mean, when you go through the last sort of 27 years, and some of the managers who haven't managed to achieve a win there, and for Gary O'Neill to come in and do what he's done, and just put that layer of calmness into the team, and just go there, relax, play your game, and we'll get the result. You'll get the goals at some point. It was just really good to see.
Yeah, I'm really proud of them. I know I was confident on the show last week, and I never really thought it's. We've been stung in the past, but I never really thought that this was a hurdle. Excuse me, that Wolves were going to fall at. I just thought it was professional. It was measured aggression. There was a couple of ratty Albion challenges when they got a couple of bookings. There was a particularly bad one on Cooney with the elbow when he went across him. There's a couple of nasty bits there and a bit of frustration, but we still didn't get drawn in. I mean, Dawson stuck up for his teammate, but we didn't get drawn into silly nonsense that could have been a lever or got a man sent off. It was thoroughly professional. Although it wasn't the most fluent Nocky, there were spells in the game when Wolves knocked the ball round and little triangles they did, and you could just see that was a clear difference between the two sides. It wasn't by all means a show where we were dominating them and we're totally outclassing them, but there were moments when Wolves had to get themselves out of trouble and play little triangles, particularly with the goal. I mean, that wasn't a triangle, but little spells in the game where you could see that there was a quality difference.
Yeah, I don't think we really ever came out of second gear. I thought we were cruising the game. We were just being careful. We were being intelligent. We were playing it professionally, and the quality difference is there to see. Look, I think if that's at Molineux, I think we probably do it 4 or 5 goals because we were just so controlled in the way we play. And as you say, we didn't get a booking. And I thought I haven't seen it back, but they looked like a really bad tackle on Doyle, which felt like it could have been a red card. I don't know.
I don't think that was. It was hard. I think it's one of those orange ones, as we say. But I think a yellow's fair with that one.
But the Cunha one, that looked bad to me. That looked like he made a movement with a forearm smash. So I think they were trying to bull it. It felt like we were playing a lower league team. And I know that we say that sort of stuff to get under the skin, but it did very much feel like that. They were trying to make the ground horrible. They were trying to make the atmosphere horrible. They were trying to rough us up on the pitch, and we just stood up to it really well. And we just let our football play through. And you could see the quality. I mean, the goal from Neto, that Doherty takes all the credit for that for me, because he anticipates the ball out to Wallace, and he's on his toes as soon as it's taken. The touch, he could have just tried to leather that one clear, but he brings it down, breaks into the attacking area, draws across the defender, and then just plays it through for Neto. And Neto, we know the kind of player he's been this season. He finishes it fantastically well. So it's just those moments of quality with the difference. They didn't have anyone who could do that. And I was a little bit worried about Thomas Asante because he's fast. He's strong. He's a good, powerful striker, and I was a little bit concerned about him. But I don't think he really had a sniff in the whole game. It was the difference between the Premier League and the Championship. It's getting bigger, and I think the golfing class between us and them, even though it's not reflected in the stats, and you can look at the possession and the shots. When you look at the whole game as it was, we were a long, long way ahead of them, and I think it was a very solid 2-0 away performance, and it was. If we're being honest, it was relatively easy in terms of chances conceded. It was a solid performance.
Yeah, and we're on here to say what we see. Not everyone's always going to agree, but I genuinely believe that Wolves play within themselves. There was almost at stages when they were just managing the game, and I thought if needed or West Brom scored, I thought Wolves would go up a few levels. It was just tuck in, counter. You're going to draw them, and that's exactly what happened. But obviously, you're in the away end with your dad. Talk me through the scenes and the feeling for that when Pedro Neto's cut inside and tucked it in the corner.
It was really nervous in the stand. There was some. Obviously, it was jam packed in there. I thought the atmosphere from the Wolves fans was fantastic. The atmosphere from the Albion fans was fantastic as well. It was a proper local derby atmosphere. But I think because of the days we've had there, because of the performances we've had there in the past, and we were there at the playoffs when we lost that game 1-0, and we were there when they beat us 2-0 in the Premier. They've just beaten us comfortably every time we've been there. Even when O'Hara whacked in that 25-yarder, we ended up drawing the game at the end. So to go there and take the lead the way we did with that pace and that power and the intent, as soon as he's hit that with his left foot, because it looked like the opportunity had gone from where we were, because they get a foot in and you think it's gone, but he just swivels on
Because
it and
there was the
bangs it
ironic
to the
cheer,
corner.
was the ironic
Yeah, that made it even sweeter.
That made it
But of
even
course,
sweeter. But what did it look like in the away? And then did you get lost in the moment with your dad? Bodies everywhere, because it looked like a glorious moment.
In a sense, I was quite emotional, which is strange when you're playing a team from a division below you. But me and my dad have been there. There's a lot of Wolves fans who watch this that have been following the club for years. I'm sure they have. But when you're there with someone who you've been through some real dark times with in and out of football, I don't think you ever feel more alive than when you're at football. And we know the kind of the world we're in now. We know the stresses and the challenges that we all have on a daily basis. And to be stood there with my dad, who's also my best mate, and just see the joy in his eyes and the feeling around us and the emotion and obviously we've both had to take a pregnancy test because we're getting mounted by 5 or 6 people around us. It's just an incredible feeling. But to share that with him and just to live that moment was just a phenomenal feeling. And it's what football's all about. It's those spontaneous moments. That's what we live for. And the best thing about it as well, there was no VAR. So the second the ball hit the back of the net, quick look at the lino, because you're always suspecting something's gone on. Bang, it's there. And it's the same with the Cunha goal. When that one goes in, you're expecting him to be offside. As soon as he gives the goal, you've got them celebrations back again, and it just made it so much sweeter. It was just there were 2 great moments, and it just felt like we put a lot of real bad memories to bed in that game.
You are listening and watching episode 87 of the Wolves Report with club captain Mark Knock and your host, me, Ryan Lester. Knocky just talked us through the emotion in the away and when it went Wolves goal up. I thought after the goal, Knocky, Wolves controlled the game. I know they sort of probably invited West Brom on a little bit in probably the second half of the second half, but Wolves didn't really look in any trouble. It was comfortable. Mario was tidying up once Tommy Doyle found his range. Gimme. It was neat and tidy. It was just not an exhibition, but it was very, very professional and it was enjoyable. But the second point of the game, Knocky, Max Kilman hasn't had enough credit for this. And I know some people said, he's just lumped it. Max Kilman has not lumped that. You can see Semedo's played it back to him. He's looked up and he's just clipped it with his side foot of his left foot and it's just bent into the space. How many times has Max Kilman played that ball, whether it's to Semedo, whether it's placed to Wang? That's a regular pass when teams play a high line. And I don't think he's got enough credit for that. But the main bit was him scoring that goal, popping it through the keeper's legs. Talk us through the second goal.
I thought, I will, but I thought Kilman was fantastic. That was a proper captain's performance. And I've questioned him as captain before. I've said, has he got that mental capacity to do it? But to do it in a game like that, in that atmosphere, and to control the defensive line the way he did, that's the marker of a player who's going right the way to the top for me. And he's only going to get better. But, the ball over the top, you're looking for the flag. The flag doesn't come. He bent that run perfectly. And you just knew, the whole stand was up before he even hit it, because you knew he was going to finish it. And there was such an arrogance from him, the way he just swept it home for the keeper's legs. I mean, how many times have we been in that position in the past sort of 5 or 6 years? And unless it's Jimenez, you didn't fancy it to go in. You had Jimenez and Jota who could finish, but then there were so many times we got in those positions and we just slashed it. But it was just a controlled finish past the goalkeeper into the net. And I think we knew then that the game was done at that point. And the only disappointing thing for me is if it had have carried on and they hadn't have had that break that they had, I think there was more goals in that for Wolves, because it felt very much to me like they'd gone. And it was just a lovely finish. He's such a good footballer. I think a lot of us question the price tag of him, and you're thinking he doesn't get enough goals. His stats tell us he don't get enough goals. He's absolutely fantastic. He's one of the best players I've seen there. He's quick. He's powerful. The celebration is worth the money alone. And
It's a moment of
Albion fans.
An iconic celebration that is now.
The amount of them he's rattled
with
with
for 25. But Knocky, just going back in terms of people being rattled, our fan base, me, you, Tyler, people watching the podcast, their mates, anyone else that doesn't watch, and the whole Wolves fan base, has had so much stick and grief, and we've had to suck it up. And it's our turn now. I don't care if West Brom are in the Championship or in the Wolves are in the Premier League. Wolves have won the Black Country Derby. Now, they've not won on their own ground against Wolves for 12, 13 years, and the bragging rights are ours. So too right, we should make the most of it. I don't really care if they're in League Two and we're in the Premier League. Wolves won, the better side won, and it wasn't that difficult, and we should enjoy it, and we are enjoying it. We will talk about the stuff off the pitch. I think it's important that we discuss that in a level-headed way after we've done that. But let's go through the team, Nocky. To start with Jose Sarr, I mean, a couple of early sort of stops. One good stop down to his left-hand side in the second half, but quite an easy afternoon.
Yeah, it wasn't really work. The two headers in the first half, in the first sort of 5-10 minutes, were straight at him, easy work. And the shot from Swift was relatively comfortable as well. The only thing that was a little bit frustrating was his kicking. There was 2 or 3 that went straight out of play. And now that we've got Doherty in the team, we do have a bit of a habit of blasting it down to that flank and try and get him to win flick-ons, which Doherty does really well, but a lot of them weren't even close to him. They were just flying straight over his head out in the stand. So that was a little bit frustrating. He needs to, we need to get that kicking element of his game sorted. But in terms of everything else he did, the positional sense was excellent. The controlling of the line was excellent. The position in the back four was really strong. So I think he had a good game, but in all honesty, he wasn't really worked.
Yeah, it's a solid afternoon. We'll take it in turns. I'll go next with Craig Dawson. I don't think it was his best game in a Wolves shirt, but still, he made light work of what you said is a very difficult centre forward, pacey, strong, mobile. He coped with it well. He stuck up for his teammate. Now, I think up until he would have joined Wolves, and maybe he's still, and I don't mind if he does, but Craig Dawson's going back to the club he spent the most of his career. He had a successful time in the Premier League. So regardless or not, it's going to hurt you when you're being booed, and understandably because you've joined the arch enemies. But I thought he dealt with it really well. He's managed them, won all his headers, won all his blocks. He's such a good player, and I don't think it was a difficult afternoon. But it was. I don't really see Craig Dawson as an aggressive, tough guy. But it was great to see him sticking up for his teammate and getting up for that. And I hadn't really seen that side of him, but it was good to see, and it was just enough to let the opponents know without getting himself in trouble. Someone else who thought was good, 2 clean sheets on the bench, Totti.
Yeah, struggled the first sort of 10, 15 minutes. I don't know if their system was hurting us. They seem to have a free man every time down the flanks. But after that, he kind of got to grips with Wallace. He sort of started to control the back line, and then moving into the second half, I thought he was excellent. I thought he was probably, in a sense, he was almost the pick of the 3, even though I think Kilman had a superb game, because he was kind of getting us up the pitch. He was very direct. He was moving the ball well. There was a couple of times he skipped past attacking players, and he's got better feet than I think we give him credit for. So he's another player who's a young man who's developing, and I think we've all kind of got it in our heads that when we do upgrade that back line, it's probably going to be him who takes the hit for that. But the way he's playing at the minute and the improvement in his performances, he's got that shirt on merit. He hasn't got it because we haven't got anyone else to come in, because we've got Santiago Bueno waiting to come in. But Totti's made that shirt his own, and it was another brave performance. And that's one of the biggest things about him. He's brave, and he just seems to enjoy the game. He's not afraid to try things. And I thought he was take the first 15 minutes out of the game, and they didn't get any change out of him at all.
One thing that's interesting, I don't know if you've seen it this week. I know we talked about it on the group chat. In terms of box defending, and I don't know the exact terminology, but in terms of the top flight sides across Europe, at this moment in time, Wolves are defending their box better than anybody else in terms of blocking crosses and stopping things happening in the box. That's incredible. Not the best team in the Premier League at it, the best team in European football.
And that's O'Neill, though, isn't it? I mean, you've got to look at O'Neill for that.
Totti that cost a few £100,000. Max Kilman cost 60 grand. Craig Dawson was £3.5 million. So for less than 4 or 5 million quid, Wolves are currently statistically the best box defending team in European football. That's something I didn't think we'd be saying this year. Incredible. But Max Kilman, I thought Max had a solid game. There was one time when he jumped up for a header, he didn't quite meet it, but that's really nitpicking. It was easy for Max. I thought he was strong. He brought the ball out well. And again, you've got to credit him for such a lovely, lofty pass to put Matheus Cunha in. So pretty straightforward. Apologies, I'm struggling with my cold if I'm sounding like I'm gasping for breath all the time. So, Nocky, then do me a favour and tell me about Nelson Semedo and Matt Doherty.
Just on Max Kilman, his celebration for the second goal was fantastic as well. He was
I
running
didn't
in
see
front of
that.
us.
Did he
He
run
was
down?
running in
Did
front
I
of us,
see?
grabbing the badge and kissing the badge, and it was it was like a fan celebration. It was brilliant because he's not the most emotional character in the world. He doesn't give you that impression. So to see him reacting like that was special. Who did you want, Lamina and
The wing backs, please, mate. No, sorry, Matt Doherty and Nelson Semedo.
Doherty and Semedo? I thought it's really hard because I don't think anyone particularly stood out. But I thought Doherty in particular was good. I thought he was, he was heavily involved in the first goal because he read the play so well. He got us up the pitch. He didn't get beat. He was very solid, and he tweeted that it was easy work. So for me, that's man of the match. And I thought Semedo himself, had a decent game. Not his free-flowing attack himself. He was a little bit more reserved. Whether that was part of the plan, I don't know. But he held the line really well. He didn't give them a great deal. As I say, the first 15 minutes, I think their shape was affecting us and they had the spare man. But after that, we made a couple of adjustments and I don't think they had a kick down either flank after that. So a solid performance without being outstanding, I'd say.
Moving on to the centre midfielders, Nocky, we'll have one each. I'll do Tommy Doyle. This guy's come in. He's just really taking the opportunity, and when he gets going in the game, he's not wasteful, and he's very aggressive. And I just can't speak highly enough of him. I mean, obviously the circumstances with Mario, an opportunity, he's taken it. Joe Gomez being suspended, an opportunity for him to come in, he's taken that as well. And now, really, that shirt's his own to lose, isn't it? Looking at the next few games, he's probably not got the engine and the mobility and the other two, but he's probably the best footballer of the three. So it's a great problem to have. Nokia, tell me about Mario Lemina.
I think just the last thing on Doyle. He reminded me in that game, he was a cross between an Alex Ray and a João Moutinho in the way that he was playing. He was powerful, but he was controlled, and he kissed the badge in the corner, which nearly caused a riot. But he was brilliant. In terms of Lemina, again, I don't think it was his best game. I thought he was okay without being outstanding, but he had a job to do and he did it very well. He kept the shape perfectly. He did hold that midfield position. We've seen him get forward in recent games that he's played, and he didn't do that quite so much. But I think he had a different job to do, and he did it well. Again, it was very similar to Semedo in the sense that he did his job, but probably didn't do a great deal more than that. He did what was needed.
Moving on to the forward line, I'll start with Jean-Luc Bellegarde. Now, probably you're not going to get much talked about when the guys either side of you have got the highlights. It was by no means a bad game, and what he did though, I thought he got his body between the ball and his man quite often. He won Wolves a few important free kicks to slow it down, and as always, he didn't stop. He was unlucky not to put Wolves 2-0 up with a curling effort, but not a bad performance. But Nocky, tell me about Matheus Cunha.
He was fantastic. I mean, in terms of actual opportunities, he had the goal and he forced a save from their keeper, which I thought was actually a better strike than a goal. He caught it really well. It was a fantastic save. But he told us before the game what he was going to do. He told us that he was going to make us proud. He kind of hinted that he was going to win this one for us, and he took his goal well. His celebration's phenomenal, and he's just the right level of arrogance, isn't he? I imagine he's quite a character in the dressing room as well, but it feels like he's in love with the club and we're all in love with him. So it's sometimes a player fits a club. We saw it with Jimenez. We saw it with, Adama for a lot of his time at Wolves. And I think we're seeing it with Cunha. This club absolutely fits him and he's just getting better and better.
And moving on to Pedro Neto. We've talked about his goal and how fantastic he was. Leaving him on the halfway line when Wolves have got a corner. So when the opponents have got a corner, he just completely played into our hands, and it's a great finish.
Yeah, he took it really well, didn't he? He made an intelligent run. He didn't, a lot of players in that position will try and cut inside and get into the space early. Just held his run, waited for Doherty to get into the halfway line, then he burst past, took the touch inside the defender. They did get a little touch on it, but couldn't stop him. But they were terrified of him every time he came forward. They were backing off him, and I've got one of the people I work with is an Albion fan, and she said every time that he got the ball, they were absolutely petrified in the stands because he was just so threatening the way that he plays. But again, similar to the others, I don't think it was his best performance. I don't think he had too many opportunities to really attack him in the wide positions. But the chance he had, he took fantastically well, and again the celebration was magnificent. So a solid performance from us. Everyone was solid. No one was outstanding, I'd say, but everyone did their job.
It was businessmanlike, I would say.
It
You
was,
had a
yeah,
job to
absolutely.
do. Take the emotion out of it. Don't get drawn into any silly business. Slow the game down. Break at speed. Did it twice, 2-0, without even getting probably out of second gear. Knocky.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, after Matthias Cunha made it 2-1 to Wolves, trouble broke out in various sections of the ground. Now, it's hard to comment because the investigation hasn't been done, but it appears there were away fans in the home end. My opinion on that is this, Knocky, and you can jump in at any time that you want. First of all, if a home fan is selling a ticket to an away fan, I don't think any of my mates would do that. I'd be very, very disappointed if anyone did that. And I just think it's asking for trouble. And it's not the thing that you do to your football club. I know people might want to make a few quid, but you don't sell tickets to away fans, especially in a Black Country derby. And secondly, I know lots of people who are guilty of doing it and sitting in the home end. If you are going to go and sit in a home end, you've got to be able to control yourself. You've got to trust that you're not going to be erupting with emotion. Now, across football, this happens all the time. You've seen it. You've seen it at Molineux when there's been Man United fans in there. It may happen on Thursday night. You've seen it across football. But if you are going to take that risk, one, you need to be respectful, and two, you need to control yourself. I don't think we're ever going to put a stop to that, because it's just, you can't manage 30, 40, 50, 60,000 people going into football stadiums across the country, and who every person is that right person. So yeah, just your take on that part of the situation.
Yeah, I don't understand why you'd want to sit with the Albion fans, because the whole point of going to the game is you want to be able to celebrate when those moments happen. So I don't understand the logic of wanting to sit in the home end, especially in a game like that. I don't know why you'd sell your ticket, because if something does go off, they're going to locate where that ticket came from, and potentially it's a ban. I think that the police deserve a lot of credit, because from our position, I thought the police were excellent. They came and they kind of shut the whole section down where it was happening. They created a barrier, and they stopped what would have been a further escalation, I think. So I thought the police were excellent. I think West Brom as a club have to take a portion of the blame. Every time I've been there, whenever they've scored against us, they've been on the pitch. So it shouldn't have been a surprise that this was going to happen. They had warning.
Just going back in time then, talk us through your previous experience when the under-21s played there.
Yeah, I was there last season, and they beat us on penalties, but they invaded the pitch 3 times in that game. Every time they scored, they were on the pitch. They scored the second goal, they were on the pitch. They won the penalty shootout, they were on the pitch, and they just beeline for the Wolves fans and were goading us to get on with them, really. And it was that day, Wolves fans were impeccable. I mean, it was families. I took my lad to that game because I wasn't, probably naively, I wasn't expecting it to be the kind of atmosphere it was. But there was families, there was children, there was older people, and you just went there to watch a football match, and that should have been a warning sign for the Albion, that especially in that corner, that there was a risk. And then Tommy Doyle took a corner, there was bottles coming on at him, so you had the warning signs that there was a little bit of a short fuse in that area. I don't think West Brom as a club shut that down. They didn't put an increased steward kind of presence over there. And in terms of the stewards, that, let's be honest, they're not phenomenally well paid. I'd be surprised if they're much above minimum wage, so they're not going to take their life in their own hands.
And I wouldn't expect them to.
I wouldn't expect them to, absolutely not. But there should have been a greater presence around that area as a little bit of a kind of let's just be a little bit sensible here. But they didn't do that, and then Cunha scored the goal, and we just saw it erupt. And you had the corner at the far end opposite us was where it all started from, and there was a lot of rumours flying around. Some people thought that the substitute had celebrated, and that of course the initial flashpoint. But then the assumption was there was probably Wolves fans in there. And I get it. There's a frustration. They're 2-0 down. They're going to lose the game. They know that at that point, and a fan has celebrated. But the reaction from West Brom, they've absolutely embarrassed themselves for that many fans and they were jumping from where we were. They were jumping all from every stand, and they were beelining for that area. And then that was all going off that side. To the right of us, there was were trying to get on the pitch, and the
But that
police
was
were
nothing to do with Wolves fans on the right hand side, wasn't
Wolves.
it?
No, I'll get to Wolves fans in a sec. But they were trying to get on the pitch at us. The police were wading in, and they were holding them back, and there was a few baton strikes going in, and West Brom fans kept pushing. But all through the game, they've been throwing things into the Wolves end. There was coins coming in, there was bottles coming across. I don't know if Wolves fans threw anything at them. I couldn't see that, but I could see it coming the other way. But the whole time that was going on, the Wolves fans were impeccably well behaved. No one tried to get on the pitch at all that I saw. No one was trying to escalate it. We were just stood there with 2-0 up. We're having a sing song, and it was it was an extra 40 minutes of singing for us, really. But the whole thing was just awful to see. It's not. I don't think people realise what this derby is outside of the West Midlands. You don't understand that this isn't a friendly derby. This isn't an Everton Liverpool where you can sit with your neighbour and watch the game together. There's genuine hatred in these games, and even if I'd have had a ticket for my lad, I wouldn't have took him, because it's the sort of game that could put you off for life. And then there was West Brom fans dragging their kids onto the pitch just to get out of that area. I know there was some really good comments around Cunha, who was trying to speak to a couple of the kids, make sure they were okay, and it was just really, really unnecessary. It was scenes that didn't need to happen. The reaction was disproportionate to the incident. Let the stewards go in and let them pull the fan out who celebrated. If he has celebrated, then he's a complete
We
idiot.
don't. This is the problem. I mean,
taken out the ground
it's hard to
don't
comment.
know.
It's hard to comment on what we don't know, because there's accusations flying over all over the place. But the things that we can comment on is it's unacceptable for any home fan to sell an away fan a ticket. It's just, that's not okay. However, if you get your hands on an away ticket from whatever means you have, you need to take responsibility yourself. If you can't control yourself, you shouldn't be going into that situation. But it's not for me to tell people what to do at football matches. But equally, we've seen the outcome of what happens if you don't.
Yeah, I just think there was a lot of failings there. I mean, there was a woman got on the pitch, and a middle-aged woman who tried to nutmeg a steward, and then you had someone who, I've seen the footage of the guy. He was the first one to kind of try and punch the alleged Wolves fan who was in that stand, and then he managed to make his way all the way down to the other end of the ground and get on the pitch and walk towards the Wolves fans with a scarf above his head. So I think there was a lot of failings, but I also think there was a lot of unexpected pressures that probably the West Brom staff didn't expect to be in, and there's only a certain amount of police officers that you've got in that area, and they had their hands full. So there was a lot of failings. I think West Brom have come out of it really poorly. I think for a club who are in the financial position that they're in, to risk. It's what something they don't need at the moment, isn't it? Because they could potentially have a big fan. There's a potential for a stadium ban, which is more finances they've lost. And I just think there's banter in football's fantastic. I would hate to lose the banter in football. We have it with the thing Villa.
Is that, Nocky, what we don't want here, we don't want them to decide now that you can only have home fans in that game, because the whole point of that I know that the spilling over the fans on the right hand side and the home fans in that area. Otherwise, I mean, we haven't seen much, but those things sparked off an absolutely enormous incident that the whole country could see, and it was embarrassing. But what we don't want here is for this game to be a home fan like Celtic and Rangers now, because I mean, you need the opposing fans for that needle in the atmosphere. I enjoy that feel and that sort of that passion in there. That's what makes that game so important.
Yeah, I don't think it will get there. I mean, mainly because we probably won't play him again for some time. But I don't think it will get. I don't think we're there yet. I think that the Rangers and Celtic issue is slightly different, because that was an ongoing. They play each other 4 times a year, and there's trouble 4 times a year. Whereas I think there'll be a fine. There'll probably be a big fine. I don't think they'll get a ban, but I think they'll get a hell of a fine. And I think if we do play him again, they'll potentially block off that corner on the right hand side of the fans, which is what they probably should have done originally. Was take that out, because they did it on our side of the stand. It would have made sense to cut it out there. So I think there's lessons learned. I mean, we haven't played there for quite some time in front of supporters, so they were caught out for me. I don't think they quite expected it to be as ferocious as it was. But there wasn't a doubt in my mind, if they'd have scored, they'd have been on the pitch and we'd have seen similar scenes anyway. So there's a lot of lessons they need to learn. And I think from an Albion fan's point of view, I'd be quite embarrassed by that from what I'd seen on there, especially when they spent all week telling us that it doesn't really matter to them, and then to react like that to those situations and to embarrass your football club and put your own supporters at risk. You go to a game to watch it. I've got no intention of getting in a fight at a football match. I'll quite happily chat to an away fan. I went when we beat Villa 2-0, I was waiting for you. You were bringing the ticket, and you were late as usual. And I was chatting to Villa fans, and I was in my Wolves shirt, and there was no trouble at all. There was no hint of it, and I'm quite happy to talk to opposition supporters. I think when you go to a game with different intentions in mind, then I don't understand why you're going to the game at all. So it was disappointing. It didn't overshadow it for me because it was still a special day for me. But I should imagine there's a few young children and a few elderly people who may not want to visit the stadium for quite some time now as a result of that, which is a real shame.
Just finally on that, Nocky, the most disappointing thing for me is that the whole country, football-wise, has been talking about what happened off the pitch and not the result on it. And I don't think by no means it was a great game. And some people joked, well, you needed those stoppages because it was so boring. But at the end of the day, Wolves have won at the Wolves have won at the first time at the Hawthorns in 26, 27 years. And that's not been hardly talked about because of the ugly scenes. And that's a disappointment. Moving away from West Bromwich Albion 0, Wolverhampton Wanderers 2. We've teamed up with Sporting Iconic Moments this week. I'm going to drop a tweet out after the show. They do some graphics, and they've done some graphics of the Matheus Cunha goal and the Pedro Neto, sort of the tactical look at the goals. I don't know if you can see on there. I tried to get it on, but there's some artwork they've done there for Pedro Neto and for Matheus Cunha. Now, I'll drop a tweet out afterwards. All you have to do is follow the Wolves Report, follow Sporting Icons on their page, and I will drop it out, and the winner can pick which one they want. Give those guys a follow, knock out some great artwork, and obviously it's I know we mocked Sheffield United earlier on in the season, but I'll certainly be getting my hands on one of those, probably maybe both, to stick in the bar, Knocker. There's no questions on the show this week, just wanted to reduce it to give people opportunity to listen, but 2 massive games coming up now, Knocker. 2 huge games. We've got a game in 2 days' time. Man United at Molineux. This is an enormous game, and it sounds ridiculous because Wolves have won, but I actually think this is a game that's going to suit Wolves because Man United are not going to respect Wolves. They're not going to tuck in. They're not interested in doing that against anybody. Wolves have got some really interesting conundrums as well. Fit João Gomez, fit Ait Nouri, Pablo Sarabia. Knocker, your take ahead of Wolves v Man United.
It's always going to be a difficult game, Man United. We haven't got a bad record against them, but they've still got some very good players. Although they are in a little bit of disarray at the moment. There's some problems with Marcus Rashford, and I don't think they're particularly happy with their manager. So I think it's an opportunity for Wolves to take them on. We should be relatively relaxed, and we should be quite upbeat after that. I think the atmosphere will be good as a result of the game on Sunday. So I think it's a game we should be going into with a belief that we can win it. I mean, it's 7 unbeaten now. We haven't lost at home for quite some time either. So I don't think Man United I don't think they'll relish coming to Wolves at all. In terms of the selections, I don't think you change a great deal. For me, I think the only one you potentially consider would be Ait Nouri coming in.
Well, for me, it's the pace that's that concerns me. Now, Doherty's come in and he's been good and he plays a huge part. However, and as much as they haven't been productive in wide areas, when you've got the likes of Marcus Rashford, when you've got the pace, Garnacho, when you've got the pace of those players, you need pace to match pace because as good as he's been, you need the legs in there. And it would be harsh to match him. But maybe because you've got Totti in there, I don't know. But from what Gary's done the last few months, I don't really care who he plays because you've got to trust him now because it's been magnificent. If you had to make any changes, what would you do? Or would you keep it the same?
It's a squad game, isn't it? Players don't really get dropped now. Players get rotated back in. So I don't think there'd be anything wrong with dropping Doherty because I think you potentially could be more efficient in the Chelsea game because I think they've probably got he may just be more used from that game. For me, I'd start Ait Nouri because I think he's our best left back, and I think you play your best 11. So as much as I like Doherty and he was brilliant against the Albion, I just think that we're a better side with Ait Nouri in it. I think he's one of the best left wing backs in the league. So if you've got that kind of armoury, then why wouldn't you use it? So for me, he comes in. Gomez is back, but I think Tommy Doyle keeps the shirt. I don't see why you would need to take him out at this stage. I think he's building up a good relationship with Mario Lemina. If you do get yourself a goal up, you've then got Joe Gomez to bring on to kind of batten down the hatches in midfield. So I'm not changing a great deal. Sarabia didn't feature at all in the West Brom game, so I don't know if he's injured or if he's carrying an injury or whatever.
He had a dead calf. He picked up on the Friday game.
Okay, so I mean, personally, I'll keep Bellegarde because I thought he was probably our best player in the first half. He felt like the pick of the players to me. He was really effective in his role. So United aren't particularly fast at the back. I'd like to think we'd attack them with pace. And also I think a team like United are going to come at you. They're going to put you under pressure. So they'll hold a high line, the opportunities for space in behind that we're more likely to take advantage of that with those three than we would have Sarabia. I'm not sure it's a game for Sarabia because he needs time to play. He needs pockets of space. And I think most of Wolves attacking in that game, he's going to be on the break. He's going to be from
I think West Brom would have been when West Brom tucked in on the edge of their box. That would have been the time for Sarabia to open the door. That would have suited him more than Bellegarde. But and I know we are sort of well over halfway through the season now. I'm just going to tonight. Luton are beating Brighton 3-0. That's half time now, and Palace are drawing 2-2 with Sheffield United. All the other games at the moment are 0-0. Brighton, one of the teams, are really close to us. That puts their goal average now down to 2 or 3. Wolves are playing Man United. It isn't a time when you can do anything but play your best team. Now, I don't think he will, but if he thinks Joe Gomez is more suited to this game and Sarabia is more important and Ait-Nouri is, then so be it. It's not like a case of being harsh. As you said very well, Nocky, it's a rotation game now. There's a tactical rotation every week. It's very much a horses for courses and not that good 11 or 12 anymore. Now, it might be harsh on Doherty. It would certainly be harsh on Doyle. But if Wolves won, who cares? And you have to think as well, there's another massive game on Sunday against Chelsea. Now, we can't look too far ahead because we've not dealt with Man United, but there's a lot of games in a space of we're playing Sunday, Thursday, Sunday. You can't go with the same 11 3 times on the bout. So I do think Wolves will make changes for Thursday night. I do think Ait-Nouri will come in. I have a sneaky about Joe Gomez, and I know people would say that's terrible and that he shouldn't be dropped, but if Wolves won the game, nobody would care afterwards. It might be harsh, but I don't know. I do think there'll be changes. There will be definitely changes to that. But as I said before, we're not taking any questions tonight. It's a slightly shorter show. A few people have messaged me saying they really love the intro and the credits. Would you like me to play the credits for going out again as I started? Maybe we could enjoy that. If you'd like me to play them again, if you enjoyed them, we'll have them as the closing credits as well, because that was quite fun. But Nocky, I would like your prediction first for Wolverhampton Wanderers v Man United.
How can I not pick a win after that? I'm going to say 2-0 to Wolves, and I fancy a Pedro Neto goal.
Pedro Neto. What was the score?
2-0.
2-0. And obviously we've got Sunday's game against Chelsea as well. So double bubble there. What can you do?
Chelsea's a difficult game, but we're a hard team to beat, aren't we? So I'll go for an optimistic 1-1 in that one. 4 points out of these next two, and the European charges on.
If you offered me 3 points in the two games, I would absolutely take your arm off. I think it's more important. I know Chelsea are around us, but I think it's more important to beat Man United. I do think Wolves will beat Man United 2-0, Mateus Cunha. And I think Wolves will stink Chelsea out and it'll be 0-0. Like with you, at 4 points, I would absolutely take your arm off that.
But I think the keys as well now is that, there's no arrogance about it. You would expect Wolves should be safe from where we are. I think 2 wins between now and the end of the season should do it. So why would we not be in a position to have a right good go at the second half of the season and see if we can't close that gap? Because I think Brighton have got European football still. They're not on a particularly good run. Are they going to fancy an FA Cup game against Wolves when they've got the Europa League to come? So I'd love to see Wolves go full hammer and really try and let's just see what we can do in the second half of the season. Handbrake fully off, give Gary O'Neill what he wants, and maybe we can sneak a signing or two across the line before the end of the window. And let's just have a right good go at it and enjoy the second half of the season, because they've already gone way above my expectation. And I would love to see Gary O'Neill in Europe, because the way he's performed, the passion he's brought to the club, what he's done for us.
He's reconnected it all, hasn't he? He's reconnected it.
Yeah.
And it was just finishing off before we end the show. It was great to see him let himself go at the end of the game, because we'd never seen that. He's a very very measured, articulate, tactical guy. And when the away fans would genie him up to do that, to give them sort of them celebrations at the end, to add that, we never really had that real connect with him about that. But that's something that those people are going to remember forever, and those fans there and the players, and it was really, really good to see.
He feels like one of us. He does feel like one of us. You know, we spoke about this before. We had a connection with Nuno. We never really got that with Bruno Lage. We always kind of felt that Lopetegui was looking for a bigger club, a bigger opportunity. And Gary O'Neill came in, and I was absolutely devastated when he came in, because for me, that's the white flag. But I'm so pleased to have been so wrong about the man. And he's just got something about him where he's desperate to do well. He feels like he's grateful to be at this football club, and everyone's bought into him. I mean, you look at some of the names we've got there. We've got a Brazilian international, we've got a Spanish international, we've got some real top quality players. We've got a Pedro Neto who's probably going to go for north of 70, 80 million quid, and they're all completely buying into what he's doing. And you can't do that if you're a poor manager. You know, he's a man manager. He's getting the best out of those players, and he's given us back a little bit of our football club, which had maybe drifted away in the last couple of seasons. And I'm so pleased that, you know, he's doing a good job, because he's a likeable character as well. So I think there's a lot of people at the club deserve a hell of a lot of credit, and it's nice to be enjoying it without seeing faux and out signs every 2 minutes and people frustrated, and just coming to football matches and enjoying the game. And win, lose or draw, you know the lads are going to have a right good go at it, and you know, you can enjoy your football again. It's just a fantastic place to be at the moment.
Fantastic end to the show from my club captain. This has been episode 87 of the Wolves Report. Of the Wolves.